The average water depth over there right now is maybe 6 or 12 inches deep. That's it. The coral heads go all the way towards the surface of the water. Pretty amazing. We can be this far out into the open Atlantic Ocean, find water depth around a foot or less. Now that also means during really low tides, the coral heads in that area will actually break the surface of the water. They'll start to dry out, and that's what gives this area that we're in right now its common name, the dry rocks. We're just on the eastern edge of that area, so this is called the eastern dry rocks. There's a western dry rocks as well. I just wanted to start out like this because it will give you a really good idea of how everything else out here at the reef will get its common name. Now, just like Sand Key White House and the dry rocks themselves, everything we see beneath the glass today will get its common name for pretty simple reasons, for maybe what they look like, or what they're doing, what they could possibly do to you if you happen to touch them or brush up against them, and in many cases, even the sounds they might make. Now, we do not actually touch or hear anything being on the glass spotted boat today, but you'll see where that comes into play a little later on. Now, I did mention that this is one very small section of the third largest barrier reef in the world. The largest, no doubt, is the Great Barrier Reef. That's located off the coast of Australia. The second longest reef is a little less known. It's actually off the coast of Belize in Central America. And as mentioned, this is the third longest. Our reef line here in the Florida Keys starts a little south from Miami, right around the Key Biscayne area. It then parallels the Florida Keys all the way past Key West and ends at the Dry Tortugas for a total length of 238 miles. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about all the corals and the fish. I'm going to start talking about the corals first, though, because when you look through the glass, you're going to see some fish, and you'll know that you're looking at a fish. Now, when you're looking at the corals, though, the corals are a lot more complex than the fish. They're a lot more important. As a matter of fact, if the coral wasn't here, none of these fish would be here. They wouldn't even exist. And Key West would not exist as we know it either. So there again, I'll start talking about the corals. Then I promise I'll get into all the tropical fish. Now, there's really two types of corals. There's soft coral and hard coral. Out here at the reef, there is no seagrass, there's no sea plants, there's no seaweed. That's not that we don't have those things in our ecosystem, we definitely do. All of those other things, though, are typically found in our lagoon area. That's the area we travel from the west to reach the reef line itself. So that means when you look through the glass today, if you see anything kind of resembling a plant, anything that's going to move around in the currents of the water, much like a plant or a tree would in the breeze, keep in mind that those aren't plants at all that you're looking at. All of those are living forms of soft corals. Now, when you look through the glass today and you see the things that look rocky or boulderous, keep in mind that those aren't rocks. All of those are living forms of hard corals. Now, very important to keep in mind when you're looking at either one, what you're really looking at is hundreds, and in many cases, even thousands of tiny living marine animals or organisms known as coral polyps. Now, they're grown together in groups or colonies to form those structures that you're viewing. Now, from the boat, we can't see any one individual coral polyp. Coral polyps only grow to be about the size of a match head. They're clear, gelatinous like a jellyfish. They're barrel-shaped. They have a small slit opening or a mouth that has tentacles that will extend from themselves. Usually at nighttime, they'll do that to trap and sting their food, things like zooplankton. They will also retain a small amount of algae within themselves. That's what enables most corals to get their color. Now, each coral polyp will also have an exoskeleton. The only protection that they'll have outside from that being a very thin mucous membrane layer. So they're very, very small and extremely fragile. Now, all of the soft corals you'll see out here today, they both get their common names for what they look like. We have a lot of sea fingers, sea rods, and sea whips. The ones that kind of look like ostrich feathers to you, those are called sea plumes. And the very large flat rod structure, that's the common sea fan. Now, soft corals take nutrients out of the water, and they turn their exoskeleton into a protein very similar to what you would find in human hair and fingernails. It's called gorgonin. This enables these soft corals to retain their structure, but also gives them the flexibility to move around in the currents of the water, much like we've been seeing this afternoon. Now, this also makes all soft corals ahermatific. That's just a big word for non-reef building. Now what that means is when the living tissue within these salt corals dies out, their exoskeleton will dissipate. That whole structure that you've been viewing today would just dissolve back into the ocean. It does not add on to the reef. Now hard corals do something entirely different. Hard corals trap carbon in the water. They turn their exoskeleton into calcium carbonate. That's just a thin layer of limestone. So when the living tissue within the hard corals dies out, that limestone deposit will remain. You'll have an area of dead coral for a little while, but later on, either through cloning or spawning, you would get a new coral colony to develop on top of that, and that's how all of these hard corals out here grow. It's just layer upon layer. And then you end up with a system that's fermented for reef building. That's a very slow process, though. Even in optimal conditions, a lot of these corals out here can only grow an estimated 1/4 of an inch a year. That means at best, some of these corals could grow 1 inch, and that's in 4 years' time, so extremely slow growing process. Now, most of the hard corals you'll see out here today, they will get their common names for what they look like as well. When we drift over the tops of those coral heads, you'll see a yellowish tan-colored piece of coral. Kind of spreads itself out lumpy everywhere. That's mound coral. There's a lot of boulder star coral out here. That would be a green knobby piece of coral. We have a lot of brain coral too. That will be a round structure that will have all of the same grooves and indentations in it as a human or a mammal's brain would have. We also have our branching types of hard corals. That would be our elkhorn coral, staghorn coral, and pillar coral. But we do have one variety of hard coral out here that does not get its common name for what it looks like. It gets its common name for what it would do to you if you happen to touch it or brush up against it, and that is the fire coral. Just like that name suggests, if you happen to touch a piece of that fire coral, you get a very nasty sting or a burn wherever you did. So you'll want to know how to identify that fire coral for yourself. And it's really easy to do. Don't try to look for the fire coral down in the deeper areas. When we drift over the tops of those coral heads, that's where you'll find the fire coral growing. It will grow up towards the surface of the water. It kind of resembles jagged sheetrock. It will be a rusty brown color, and it has a white leading edge at the top of it, and that is the blade variety of the fire coral. Now, to give everyone a really fine example of just how that fire coral works, say you were down there snorkeling today, and you brushed up against a piece of that fire coral, let's just say on your arm. Now, as mentioned, you will get a pretty bad burn from that. What's really interesting, though, is the duration of that burn will be different for everyone. It's based on your skin sensitivity as to how long you'll actually feel that. That burn could last for 20 minutes on one person, might last for a day in another person. That burn could last for a week in another person. And there's no pill, lotion, doctor, or even hospital that can make that burn go away. Just something you're going to have to wait out. And that's pretty bad stuff, but most people do know that about the fire coral just based on its name. Now, some people might not know, but if you came back to an ecosystem like this, let's say 5 years later, this time you go snorkeling again, and this time you touch the fire coral again, but this time on a completely different part of your body. Well, now you're a very, very unlucky person. Not only will you feel the burn where you just make contact with the fire coral, but where you touched it on your arm 5 years ago, that would start to burn all over again, just as severe. And that is really, really bad stuff. Now, even as bad as that is, though, that's not the main reason why we wouldn't want to touch the coral. There's a couple more really good reasons. I promise I'll get to those here in just a second. Now, it's pretty cool to think, though, when you look through the glass today and you see all of the coral and the fish, that this is exactly what the Florida Keys and Key West used to look like previous to the Ice Age. All the Florida Keys and Key West used to be a living reef, just like this. Had all the same corals and fish sitting directly below the surface of the water doing the same exact thing. Except when the Ice Age happened, the polar caps were formed. That lowered water levels considerably around the world, and this simply exposed all of the Florida Keys and Key West and some other land masses too. But that's also why we're known as the Florida Keys. The word Keys comes from a really bad translation on our part of a very, very old Spanish word. That Spanish word is Cayo. spelled C-A-Y-O. If you went home and looked that word up, that would tell you that is a coral top island or an island built of reef. That's exactly what all the Florida Keys and Key West are. Now, all of this could happen one more time as well, that water levels around the world were ever lowered once more. This area that we're in right now would simply rise up out of the water. The Florida Keys and Key West would get a whole lot bigger. Now, it's very, very important that ecosystems like this and others like it around the world have been in existence for the duration of time that they have been. To give you guys a good idea of at least how long this has been happening here in the Florida Keys, some researchers in the Upper Keys found that our whole reef line is built on more ancient pieces of coral that date back over 125,000 years. Now, as mentioned, very, very important that this has been happening for that length of time. Remember, I shared with everyone that these hard corals do trap carbon in the water. Now, if they haven't been doing that for that length of time, that carbon would be building up in our oceans, would eventually turn all of our oceans into carbonic acid. Now, that doesn't sound too healthy, and it definitely wouldn't be. That means there'd be no more nice seafood dinners because there would be no more sea life. There'd be no more beach trips because all of our oceans would be truly acidic. And when you consider that we do live on an ocean planet, about 70% of our planet's surface is ocean water. Out of that, only 2% is reef, just like this, and about 50% of all the marine life dwells around that tiny 2%. So extremely important about what happens out here. So if we didn't have healthy oceans, we'd have absolutely no chance of having a healthy planet. Now, I did mention that fire coral to everyone just a minute ago. Even as bad as that stuff is, I'm sure if any of us make contact with that, sooner or later we would heal up nicely from it. There's some corals down there that are razor sharp that can give you a very nasty cut. Now, I'm sure if that happened to any of us, sooner or later we would heal up nicely from that as well. Now, we could cause so much more damage to this coral, though, than it could ever do to us. Now, keep in mind that we do have bacteria that lives all over us. It's all over our skin, our hair, our clothes. It's been there forever, and it's completely unharmful to us. But that bacteria is extremely harmful and very foreign to this marine environment. If you were down there snorkeling or diving today, saw a nice piece of coral and decided to keep that for a souvenir, or even accidentally brushed up, or I just wanted to touch it rather, just to see what it felt like, or even kind of accidentally brushed up against a piece of coral with some of your dive gear too, you're doing a very, very damaging thing. Now, even the slightest brush from your index finger could break down dozens of coral polyps. That bacteria that dwells on you would be transmitted into those polyps and basically infecting that coral with your own personal disease. Now, not only would that one area that you touch be affected from that, since coral polyps do grow together in tight groups or colonies, that bacteria would spread throughout that whole colony. They're going to share that disease. So by that one curious or accidental touch, you could be killing coral. It might be a relatively new piece of coral, or that coral could be several hundred years old. And it really doesn't stand a good chance to recover out of that either. Now, I'm not saying that that coral couldn't recover from that, but if it did, you might not even see any signs of that recovery for close to 30 years after that touch. And that's the main reason why we would never want to touch the coral. Now, if that's not good enough, though, there is one more reason why you would not want to touch the coral. This one's more for the adults, though, because it could affect your finances. All of these waters out here are part of the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. Just like we couldn't go out to a state or national park and start cutting down trees, can't come out here to the reef line and start gathering up our coral. Now, even all the dead and broken coral you see out along the reef line, that's equally as protected as a living coral itself. So if you were down there snorkeling or diving today, saw a nice piece of coral and decided to keep that for a souvenir, if you were ever caught doing that, you would be arrested. You would also have a pretty hefty fine to pay. Now, your fine would be determined on the weight of that piece of coral you decided to take from our waters. For every ounce of coral in your possession, you're going to charge you around $500. So let's say you have a softball-sized piece of rain coral. That tiny piece of coral will set you back close to $8,000, and you won't even get to keep that very expensive piece of coral either. They're going to take it from you. But realistically, you wouldn't want to keep it. Let's say you took that coral from the water, definitely got away with it, made it back to your hotel room, your tour bus, or your cruise ship, stuck that tiny piece of coral inside your suitcase. The only thing you would have when you got home would be a very smelly piece of luggage and a piece of white limestone rock to go along with that. Now, the reason for that, you have to keep in mind that you took a living marine organism out of the water. It's going to die in your suitcase, and that will not smell pretty at all. The reason why it would be a piece of white limestone rock, what gives those corals their color is a single-celled algae that dwells within the coral polyps. So when that coral dies, the algae will be depleted. It will bleach itself out and reduce itself down to its exoskeleton. That's just a piece of white limestone rock. Because most corals will lose their color when they die. Now, it did say most, and that could have some of you a little confused. When you get back to Key West today, you go around town and visit any of our gift shops, you're going to see some of our stores down here sell this nice, brightly colored coral. What you're looking at in those gift shops, though, is coral that came from different parts of the world with less strict rules regarding their reef. It was dead coral. Somebody's taken the time to bleach it and then dye it or paint it. And that's pretty much all you're looking at in gift shops. Now, there is a few exceptions to that rule, though. There are a few different varieties of corals that will retain their color after they die. And you ladies have probably heard of like red coral, black coral, and pink coral, usually made into some really fancy jewelry, and those will retain their color after they die. Now, that pink coral, though, is a really fine example of different types of corals and fish will inhabit around different ecosystems around the world. We do not have any of that pink coral here in the Florida Keys. That can only be found in the South Pacific. We also have different corals at different water depths. That would be that black and red coral, which we do have here in the Florida Keys. We won't see any of that today, though. Those are deep water corals, generally found at about 120 feet of water or deeper. Now, I do know when we're drifting around out here today, sometimes it might look like we're getting dangerously close to the coral sometimes. You don't have to worry, though. There's always a safe distance in between the bottom of the viewing wells and the tops of the coral heads themselves. The reason why things will appear to be so close sometimes, you have to keep in mind that water is about 800 times denser than our atmosphere. Now, looking through that glass, that will give everything an instant 25% magnification. Make everything look about 25% closer or larger than it really is. That really does work to our benefit and our viewing experience here on the glass bottom boat. Now, one fish we do get to see a whole lot of out here, sometimes it even looks like he's following the boat around, would be a silver-bodied fish with a bright yellow tail. That here in the Florida Keys, more commonly known as catch of the day. That's going to be the yellowtail snapper. You go to any seafood restaurant in town, know exactly what I'm talking about. Chances are they're going to serve that little guy up. If they don't serve him up, they're going to serve up one of his cousins or one of his brothers. Down here in the Florida Keys, we have all the snappers present. Every time we take a trip out to the reef, we're on a really good chance of seeing the majority of those. All of them but one, and that's the red snapper, which we do have here in the Florida Keys. But for those of you that enjoy fishing, you probably realize that the red snapper is a big fish. Now, big fish tend to live in deep water. It's obviously very shallow out here at the reef, so we won't have a good chance of seeing a red snapper out here this afternoon. Now, another fish we do get to see a whole lot of, we've already seen him a whole bunch today, is a smaller tropical fish. He only gets about the size of your hand or palm. He'll have 5 black bars running down the side of his body with some yellow mixed in. Those are sergeant major damselfish. Now, even as cute as those little sergeant majors are, though, kind of hard to believe that's one of the most aggressive and territorial fish that you'll find out here along the reef line. Now, the female will go through a very elaborate process of building a nest, then she'll lay some eggs, and then she'll figure her job's done. She'll take off on a little vacation. Before she goes on that vacation, she'll put the male in charge of the household at the moment. He becomes extremely territorial, and he'll actually change color from that yellow and black stripe to a very dark blue and black stripe. That's what's known as the guard phase or the dark phase, and he'll do anything he can to protect that nest. Now, that change in color is pretty much a warning sign to any other fish that might be in the area to stay away from that nest while he's guarding it. Now, if you were down there snorkeling or diving today, you got a little too close to one of those nests. Based on the size of that little guy, he couldn't take a bite out of you, but he would swim up to you and start bumping into you, trying to push you away from the nest. Now, if that didn't get you to go away, he'd go grab 5 or 10 of his buddies in the same phase. Before you know it, he'd have a whole school of these angry little fish just bumping into you, trying to get you to go away. Now, they wouldn't stop until you left the area. You might not know what you've done to make so many fish so upset, when in fact all you did just happened to get a little too close to one of those nests. Now, I hate to break this next one to you guys, though, but if any of you came out here today trying to find Nemo, you're actually in the wrong ocean. That little clownfish actually lives off the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Those are really nice rainbow parrotfish we got off the port side a second ago. There's another one down there, too, a couple of big rainbow parrotfish. I'll get to those guys in just a second. But we do have a resident Nemo movie star out here in the Florida Keys. I've already seen a couple today. Keep your eyes peeled for bright blue fish with a spade-shaped body. Those are blue tangs. Now, blue tangs are a member of the surgeonfish family, but more commonly known to Nemo fans as dory. So dory does live out here in the Florida Keys. Now, we jump around these coral heads. If you there's a big pufferfish down there. If you guys on the port side see the guy who has a really big blunt head, that was a pufferfish, porcupine puffer. But if you see groups or schools of fish kind of congregated around the sides or even on the tops of the corals for protection, a lot of those are different varieties of our gruntfish family. Now, gruntfish are pretty cool in respect that if you took one of those up out of the water, they would actually start making very loud grunting sounds at you. Now, gruntfish are able to do that. They have teeth that extend from their mouth all the way back into their throat. They can grind those teeth together and produce those very loud grunting sounds. Now, gruntfish are edible. They're very closely related to our snapper family. If you go to any seafood restaurant in town, though, you will not find those little gruntfish on the menus. That's because they don't get as big as a snapper, so they are a little harder to clean. The local fishermen have been serving those up to their families all throughout the Florida Keys for generations. You guys are getting a really good look at some staghorn coral on the starboard side. It kind of looks like deer antlers, kind of coming off the tops of the coral heads. That's a staghorn coral. Really good video of helping look at that. Now, I think one of the things you guys might have noticed immediately, too, is just the general size of the fish out here along the reef line, how they are relatively small. There's a really good reason for that. Anytime a predatory fish might move through the area, these smaller fish can go hide in nooks and caves in the hard coral, get away from that threat. That makes it very difficult for larger fish to find a good meal out here along the reef line. Better chance of seeing some of our larger fish will be one of our predatory fish, like a barracuda. Might find a barracuda out here along the reef line anywhere between 2.5 feet long. They do get much larger than that. When they tend to get larger, they'll move off the shallows of the reef line, head over to the deeper water where the bigger fish hang out. We also have a whole lot of parrotfish out here. Parrotfish will get larger than most of our other fish, but they're also very brightly colored. Some are more crowd-pleasing and colorful tropical fish. We have one that's all blue. That's a blue parrotfish. Midnight parrotfish are very dark blue with neon blue markings on them. Drifting over the tops of those coral heads, you might find a smaller bodied parrotfish, like a brown and white checkerboard body and a bright red belly. That's going to be a stoplight parrotfish. And my favorite is the rainbow parrotfish. We saw 2 of those on the port side a little while ago, and those will have every single color of the rainbow on them. Now, if you ever see a parrotfish, though, just kind of notice what they're doing. Sometimes it'll look like they're head-butted up against the coral. When you see them doing that, they're actually eating. Parrotfish are grazers, and they eat the algae that grows out here. That's really important, too, because if this algae was left to grow completely freely, totally unchecked, it can actually grow on the coral, ultimately smother out and kill the coral. So the parrotfish family really helps keep that algae growth under control. Now, sometimes when they eat that algae, they'll scrape up some limestone, they'll chew that up, digest it, and later on excrete that as coral dust. Now, coral dust, just a fancy word for sand. In 1 year's time, all of these parrotfish living out here will put well over a half-ton of sand on this reef line. That's really, really important too. Equally as important as these coral heads are continuing to grow up, the sandy areas surrounding those grow up so they can't carry on high seas. We do live in a hurricane zone 6 months out of the year down here in Key West. When we get those large storms, they can generate 20 or 25-foot waves. Now, given the shallow conditions out here along the reef line, this is where those big waves are going to break. Then they have 6.5 miles to regenerate before they reach us in Key West. At that moment, we're looking at 3 or 4-foot waves. That is a big time difference between 20 and 25-foot waves. I think you guys can imagine what the damage would be in Key West if we had 20 or 25-foot waves crashing into a little island, considering that the highest elevation in Key West only being about 16 feet above sea level. That's over by the Hemingway home off of Whitehead Street. So we get a whole lot of protection from this barrier reef here in the Florida Keys. Now, we have about 70 different species of sharks out here in the Florida Keys. There's 2 little pufferfish, you guys down there on the port side. 2 pufferfish down there hanging out together. Now, they can actually take water inside themselves and make themselves 3 times bigger than that, just to ward off any type of predator. Big fish doesn't want to eat another big fish, so that's their defense mechanism. They see a larger fish coming to the area. As mentioned, they'll take a lot of water inside themselves and really balloon themselves are really big. But really cool to see those 2 pufferfish down there hanging out together. Now, we have about 70 different species of sharks out here too, though. We have like hammerhead sharks, lemon sharks, bull sharks, and tiger sharks. Since they are larger creatures and nocturnal, in the daytime they're active over in deeper water. Don't really have a good chance of seeing these larger sharks on their big trips. Every time we take a trip out to the reef, though, pretty good chance of seeing at least one shark that actually lives out here, and that is the nurse shark. He will eventually grow to a length of well over 11 or 12 feet long. He'll stay on the shallows of the reef till he's about 4.5 feet long, just like those barracudas I mentioned a little while earlier. When he tends to get larger than that, he'll also move off the shallows of the reef, head over to the deeper water as well. Now, sometimes when you see a nurse shark out here, though, you'll see him laying motionless at the bottom of the ocean floor. Now, most sharks cannot do that. They have to be in constant motion to push water through their gills to breathe. That nurse shark is just one of a few different types of sharks. Has an extra set of muscles in his throat known as a pupil pump, and that allows him to do a couple of different things. First of all, he is a nocturnal creature, so in the daytime he'll find a nice cozy place at the bottom of the ocean floor. He'll lay down and take a nap. He can engage a pupil pump in his throat, still enables him to breathe. There's a big grouper down there for you guys, kind of underneath that coral head. That's a Nassau grouper. It's kind of hanging out here along the reef line. Pretty cool to see him. Those nurse sharks do have pupil pumps in their throats, and also not only enables them to breathe, but also allows them to hunt. Now, their favorite food is the Florida spiny lobster. We have tons of those all along the reef line. They're nocturnal critters, though, so right now they're hiding in nooks and caves of the hard coral. That's not a problem for that nurse shark, though. He'll wake up from his nap, he'll locate where a lobster is hiding within the coral. He can actually walk his mouth around the whole end of coral. He'll engage that pupil pump in his throat and just suck that lobster straight up out of the coral. Now, it's said that he can do that because that pupil pump has the power of about 8 Hoover vacuum cleaners. And if you were in the water while he were hunting like that, you would hear him mimicking the sound of a nursing infant. Now, it would be a much louder sound because he is a larger creature, but that's how he gets his kind of name, the nurse shark.
Excuse me, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but unfortunately we have come to the end of our viewing time out here, so we're going to have to pull off the reef line, pick up a little bit of speed, and start to make our way back toward Key West.